The Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has suspended airline Max Air for 3 months. It follows an incident involving one of its aircraft at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano. The flight suffered a wheel landing gear collapse and a burst tire while landing on the runway. Now, the 6 crew members and 53 passengers on board did not suffer any major injuries. The Nigeria Safety Investigation Bureau has also initiated an investigation during the incident. The NCAA also suspended Max Air operations back in July 2023 for a similar issue, but lifted that sanction. I'm now being joined by the Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection at NCAA, Michael Achimugu. And also with me here in the studio is a lawyer, Ajekigbe, who works for Max Air Legal Department. And I'll start with Mr. Opeyemi here in the studio. Max Air has had some issues in recent years. As we just read, it was suspended back in 2023. This latest mishap in Kano has raised many concerns. How does Max Air explain this pattern of safety lapses? And what sort of responsibility does the airline take for these recurring issues?
Well, good evening. Thank you for having us. For us, in the business of aviation, safety is the primary concern of all stakeholders. And since inception of Max Air in 2003, we have recorded back-to-back successes in our flight operations, both domestic and international. So there are accidents that happen with respect to our daily lives, not just restricted to aviation. But strictly talking about aviation, there are things that comes up and they are unforeseen, they are unexpected. And when they come, we are tasked with our responsibility to look at what we should do. And in circumstances such as these, we try to internalize the faults, we quickly engage, and we make a review.
Well, we'll come back to that review. Let's look at our other guest, Mr. Achimugu from the NCAA. What sort of specific systemic failures has the agency, or does the agency identify when it comes to lapses such as this?
Well, thank you. First of all, let me correct the impression that the NCAA has suspended Max Air. The airline suspended their own operations by themselves, and have asked for 3 months to be able to put their house in order. Before now, the NCAA had already initiated, an audit of all the operators. That process had been ongoing and not yet completed before this incident happened. The thing about air incidents is that just like every other means of transportation, these are machines. They can break down at any time. Anything can happen. It's not a systemic fault or a pattern specifically. Air incidents happen everywhere. You may recall that last month there were a large number, of air mishaps around the world. And it's instructive to note that Nigeria is not even among the top 15, 20 countries when it comes to air mishaps. However, the moment has come for self-introspection by this particular airline, and the NCAA is glad that they have taken this bold step to cleanse their system. Safety remains priority for the NCAA, and a thorough audit will be carried out to ensure that before they resume operations again, they are healthy, for those operations.
Mr. Achimugu, 2 things. You clarify, and thank you for the clarification, that the NCAA did not suspend Max Air. They decided to take 3 months to review and basically reflect on their operations. Now, if they did make that decision, was Max Air not going to be suspended? That's 1. And 2, you also mentioned about the safety and economic audit on Max Air. Could you just elaborate on what the audit entails? How does it differ from your previous oversight measures?
Well, I cannot say for certain if Max Air was going to be, suspended by the authority. First off, it's not my purview, and secondly, such decisions are only made after thorough investigations have been concluded. The difference, I may not be able to tell because I'm not a technical person. But of course, just like with the Dana issue, there was going to be a financial audit. Is this airline healthy financially to continue safe operations? If not, then they should not be operating. Technically speaking, how many of their aircraft, registered aircraft, are serviceable? How many of them are in operations, at the moment? How fit are they to continue operations? By the time they return, hopefully in 3 months' time, these questions will have, absolute answers, and then the authority will be able to decide whether to allow them continue those operations.
Yeah, and I just want to come back to Mr. Opeyemi talking about the review of Max Air, announcing that 3 months suspension of operations for internal appraisal. Can you just provide us with some specifics of what this appraisal will focus on? How would it address some of the root causes of these incidents?
So first of all, just like I was stating earlier in the brief chat, in part of the measures of Max Air, we suspended our operations so that we can have an overhaul, even before approaching the regulatory bodies. Max Air has been in operation. We came prepared to the industry. We have series of 737, Boeing 737 aircraft, serviceable. Max Air also have series of Boeing 74 jumbo aircraft, serviceable. However, these are incidents. When this incident comes, we tend to bend backwards and have a critical analysis for every flight operations. Before every flight move, we do the pre-flight check, even on the aircraft, then after the craft lands at the destination. So these are measures that we put in place, but critically, we want to have an overhaul of this very aircraft. For instance, this is for our domestic operation, for international operations, especially for the Hajj services. Max Air is still the leader in the market in the African corridor and beyond. So, and then we've recorded success back to back. This is an incident that has happened, and then all hands have been on deck, and we have issued press releases. Immediately the incident happened on the 27th Tuesday of January. Our managers were on ground, then we communicated with the extant regulatory authorities.
Okay, I just wanted you to focus specifically on what the appraisal will be narrowed down to, what it will focus on. But also I wanted to then add to that, talking about the safety culture, which we know is critical in aviation. How would you describe Max Air's safety culture? What are the steps that Max Air takes to ensure that, look, safety protocols are not just on paper, but are followed from all the staff, pilots to the ground crew?
Yeah, Mr. Achimugu will testify, and all the regulatory authorities. We start with our personnel. We have eminently qualified personnel. The incident of Tuesday that happened, if not for the expertise of the pilots that we had, Captain Solomon is very experienced, and several of our captains and flight officers. So they handled it well. So our personnel are very much in vogue. And then we don't joke at all with maintenance of our aircrafts. The services of this aircraft gobs a lot of money, and there are routine checks that we don't compromise. The regulatory authorities are also there to also check some of these things. So specifically, we'll be looking at the health of that aircraft, then which before now has been in good, they are all serviceable. We'll do a C check, and then it is not just a Max Air thing. It's going to also involve the regulatory bodies, the NCAA, the Accident Investigation Bureau, and a whole lot of things. So that's why we on our own came out to say that, okay, let's have 3 months so that we can also incorporate other government agencies and then the stakeholders, then we can have a critical analysis of what happened and come out stronger for the problem.
All right, let me bring in Mr. Achimugu from the NCAA. The NCAA always talks about how passenger safety is paramount. Yet we have many Nigerians, when these things reoccur or keep happening, they're losing confidence in the aviation sector. I just wanted to ask you, what sort of steps would the agencies, not even just NCAA, just the aviation industry, need to take to restore this public trust, to ensure that even other airlines are not operating under similar risks?
Well, I must be very, very candid with Nigerians. Air incidents will continue to happen all over the world. These are machines. Sometimes, just like your motor vehicle, you leave home, your vehicle is in tip-top shape. Somewhere along the journey, something just goes wrong, even with brand new vehicles. Take, for instance, the United Airlines incident recently. That's a Dreamliner. It's a majestic plane. When they left Nigeria, they were okay. Hours into the journey, something suddenly happens. On their return back to Nigeria, at some point, the plane stabilized, and they made a very uneventful return to the country. So these things happen, but it does not point to incompetence of the regulatory agency or even the engineers of the airlines. We thank God that no life was lost, and kudos to the pilot. Yesterday, my DG, Captain Chris Najoma, was, of course, one of the best pilots in the history of this country, and he did take us through the events that occurred and say, look, this pilot, Max Air, did a very great job with the incident that occurred. Nigerians should be confident in the, commitment of the NCAA to safety. Let me note again that no commercial plane crash has claimed lives in Nigeria under this administration, because our engineers, our inspectors, they have been on top of their game. It's just unfortunate that every once in a while these things must happen, even in the best countries, more advanced countries around the world, but we are on top of the game. And when issues like this occur, it's a platform for us to go back to the drawing board and improve, upon our work. And sure, in collaboration with the NSIB, we will come out on top.
Mr. Achimugu, I appreciate the first part of your answer, but I don't know how confident that will make Nigerians, because even right here in the studio, sometimes my teleprompter malfunctions. However, we have checks and balances and procedures to make sure that it does not happen. I'm going to come back to the studio to Mr. Opoyemi and just talk about lessons learned from Max Air in this case. What sort of lessons has Max Air learned, and how does Max Air plan to build back confidence from Nigerians? Because in as much as you say mistakes happen, it's been recurrent with Max Air. So how do you build that confidence back with people who like to fly Max Air?
Well, first of all, our personnel are very much solid, they are very much competent, and we have seen the importance of that now, because that is one of the things. I must not also forget the way our team was already on ground immediately the incident happened, to ensure smooth evacuation of the 53 passengers and our 6 crew members, and then to ensure all those things. So for us, we'll continue to emphasize on safety. That is one thing we do not compromise. And for no reason, we came out and we said, okay, we're going to suspend our operations.
Not for no reason. Something happened.
Yes, exactly. But what I mean is that without being prompted by anything, we just said that we are going to suspend our operations so that we look inwards and then we put better and robust things.
All right.
And we are ready, we're in the business, and of course, the financial capacity is very there. Max is one of the strongest, if not the strongest airline in the company.
All right. And in 3 months, we hope to have you back when the audit is finished, and we can discuss what changes have been put in place. Thank you so much, Mr. Opoyemi Ajekigbe, who's a lawyer in the Max Air Legal Department, and also Michael Achimugu, who's Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection at the NCAA.